Morning Majlis, talking the stories that are shaping headlines. This is Pulse 95.
Let's give a brief update on the Ukraine-Russia drama. The U.S., United States of America, has rejected Russia's demand to bar Ukraine from NATO amid the warnings that Russia might invade its neighbor. Now, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was actually given Russia a formal response to its demands to resolve the Ukraine crisis. And he even gave no concessions, but said that he was offering Russia a very serious diplomatic path forward should Russia choose it. Now, a Russian minister also said that his country would study Blinken's response delivered in coordination with NATO. And Russia had also issued a written list of its concerns about the expansion of the NATO military alliance and related security issues. Among them was a demand for NATO to rule out the possibility of Ukraine and others ever joining the alliance. But in recent weeks, we've seen Russia. It has been amassing large numbers of troops on the Ukraine border, something which Western countries, they have seen as preparation for a possible invasion, but Russia still denies this. And Blinken also said that the U.S. response made its core principles very clear, including Ukraine's sovereignty and its right to choose to be part of security alliances such as NATO. And He also did say that there should be no doubt about our seriousness of purpose when it comes to diplomacy, and we're acting with equal focus and force to bolster Ukraine's defenses and also prepare a swift, united response to further Russian aggression. He also did add that it remains up to Russia to decide how to respond. We're very ready either way. And he said the U.S. had sent 3 shipments of military assistance this week so far, including Javelin missiles and anti-armor weaponry, among other hundreds of tons of ammunition and equipment as well.
You know, a lot of people are still thinking and asking this. What is the origin of this conflict? Now, we all remember the invasion of Crimea,
right.
And so that was the beginning of an intention, or to an extent, the threats to the European Union, the NATO as well, that Russia's probably looking at expansion and expanding into a massive country such as Ukraine. Now, when there was a big meeting between the United States and Russia last month, in fact last week, what we understand is in Geneva, and there was a clear message from Russia. They say, for us, it's absolutely mandatory to make sure that Ukraine never ever becomes a member of NATO.
Yeah.
And the other issue that NATO has, or the West has, is the amount of influence Russia has in Ukraine. So there was reports that a very pro-Russia leader is going to be installed in Ukraine. And it cannot agree to any provision which allows Russia to limit the sovereignty of Ukraine, and it cannot negotiate over the heads of Ukrainians. So this is where the big situation and the big debate is. And the big question is would there be talks or would there be conflicts? The world wants to avoid conflict, but this is where things are going to get very, very tricky indeed anyway.
It's important you mentioned that, Abdelkarim, because it all dates back as far as August 1991.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ukraine, it declared itself independent of the Soviet Union, obviously, back in August 1991, and it moved to a market economy. But a conflict between Russia's remaining influence and the new ties with the West, it definitely has seen Ukraine thrown into turmoil. And in 2014, Russia annexed Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula after the country's Moscow-friendly president was driven from power by mass protests. But weeks later, Russia threw its weight behind a separatist insurgency that broke out in Ukraine's east. Ukraine and the West, they have accused Russia of sending troops and weapons to back the rebels. That's a charge Moscow definitely has denied. But so far, more than 14,000 people, they have died in the fighting in Ukraine's eastern region, Donbas. Then there came the 2015 peace agreement that was brokered by France and Germany. It helped end large-scale battles, but efforts to reach a political settlement have failed, and border skirmishes, they continue. The Kremlin has accused Ukraine of failing to honor the 2015 peace deal and criticized the West of not encouraging Ukrainian compliance. It has definitely condemned the U.S. and NATO for providing Ukraine with weapons and holding joint drills, saying that it encourages Ukrainian hawks to try to regain rebel-held areas by force. And then Putin has definitely made clear that he sees Ukraine's aspirations to join NATO as a threat to Russia's borders. So that's why he said, weeks ago that Russia will seek reliable and long-term security guarantees from the U.S. and its allies that would exclude any further NATO moves eastward, and the deployment of weapons systems that threaten us in close vicinity to Russian territory. That's what he said weeks ago when all this conflict actually became very heated. And then now things have escalated now also with the United States and Europe getting involved in all of this as well. So very sticky situation.
Definitely is, and it's going to be a wait and watch approach, really. And looking at the situation at the moment, they say there's a unified document that has been submitted to Moscow, the alliance's document, and they said that each country has their own right to choose their own security arrangements, and Ukraine being a sovereign state, they have. But in response, the Russian foreign minister said that the Secretary General of NATO has lost touch with reality when he was asked about NATO boosting their presence near the Russian borders. So when you look at this situation, it's going to be a little bit of a stalemate, because it's going to be troop build up, and then you don't know what's happening. So it's a little bit of a heightened tension in that part of the globe. We will keep a close eye on these developments. We shall continue the discussion, so do stay with us here on the Morning Majlis. We'll be right back after a bit of Avicii this morning, and we've also got a traffic update. But up next, we talk business, because the Fed has announced intentions and plans to raise interest rates. Why does it matter to us? Well, let's not forget that the Emirati dirham is pegged to the US dollar, so any interest rate rise there means an interest rate rise here. What's happening? All of this is going to be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis.
If you liked this episode of the Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.